my friends, my journey to learning English. When I was younger, I struggled with English. I could read a little, but when it came to speaking or writing, I felt lost. I always admired people who spoke fluently, and I wanted to be like them. One day, I made a decision. I would improve my English no matter how hard it was. Step 1. Reading books. I started with simple books. At first, I didn't understand everything, but I kept going. I would underline difficult words, check their meanings, and read again. Slowly, my vocabulary grew. Step 2. Watching and listening. I watched English movies with subtitles. I listened to songs and tried to sing along. I even watched interviews of famous people to understand how they spoke. Step 3. Speaking without fear. This was the hardest part. I was afraid of making mistakes, but I told myself, mistakes help me learn. I started talking to friends in English, even if I made errors. Sometimes I talked to myself in front of a mirror. Step 4. Writing every day. I began writing a small diary in English. Even if it was just a few sentences, it helped me a lot. The result months passed, and I noticed a change. I could express myself better. I was no longer afraid to speak. English was no longer just a subject in school, it became a part of my life. Now, when someone asks me how to improve in English, I smile and say, practice every day, don't be afraid, and enjoy the journey. This is a personal growth story showing the struggle and progress of learning a new skill. It's inspirational and relatable for anyone trying to improve their English. Would you like me to refine any part or add more details? The next chapter. A new challenge. As my English improved, I felt more confident, but I knew I still had a long way to go. One day, my teacher announced a speech competition. I wanted to participate, but a little voice in my head whispered, what if you make mistakes? What if people laugh at you? For a moment, I hesitated. Then I remembered my journey, how I had started with small steps and kept going despite my fears. So, I signed up for the competition. Step 5. Practicing public speaking. I practiced my speech every day. I stood in front of the mirror, imagining an audience. I recorded my voice and listened to my pronunciation. It wasn't perfect, but I was improving. On the day of the competition, my heart was racing. When my name was called, I took a deep breath and walked to the stage. I looked at the audience and started speaking. At first, my voice was shaky, but as I continued, I found my rhythm. I focused on delivering my message, not on my mistakes. When I finished, there was silence for a moment. Then the audience clapped. I couldn't believe it. I had done it. The lesson I learned. I didn't win first place, but that didn't matter. What mattered was that I had faced my fear and spoken in English in front of so many people. That day, I learned that improvement never stops. There is always something new to learn, and every challenge is an opportunity to grow. Now, I continue to practice English every day, reading, writing, listening, and speaking. Whenever I feel nervous, I remind myself, the only way to get better is to keep trying. And so my journey continues. A new adventure, making friends in English. After the speech competition, I felt more confident in my English, but I wanted to take it further. I wanted to speak with native English speakers. One day, I found an online language exchange group where people from different countries practice English together. At first, I was nervous. What if I didn't understand them? What if they didn't understand me? But I joined the group anyway. When I spoke for the first time, my voice trembled. Some words didn't come out right, and I had to repeat myself. But to my surprise, no one laughed. Instead, they listened patiently and encouraged me. They even helped me with my pronunciation. Step 6. Thinking in English. After joining the group, I realized something important. I was still translating words from my native language to English in my head. This made me slow, so I decided to train my brain to think in English. I started describing things around me in English. The sky is blue today. I am feeling happy because I learned a new word. I need to buy some vegetables for dinner. Slowly, English became more natural to me. Step 7. Writing longer stories. One day, someone in the group suggested that we write short stories in English. At first, I hesitated. Can I really write a whole story in English? But I gave it a try. I wrote about a boy who wanted to learn a new language but was too shy to speak. The story was simple, but when I shared it, everyone loved it. They gave me feedback, and I improved my writing even more. That's when I realized English was no longer just a subject or a skill. It had become a way for me to express myself and connect with the world. The unexpected reward. One day, I got an email from a company looking for someone who could speak and write in English. Because of my hard work, I got an interview. And guess what? I got the job. Standing in front of the mirror that evening, I smiled at myself. The journey had been long, and I still had a lot to learn. But now, I wasn't afraid. Because I knew one thing for sure. When you keep practicing, when you keep pushing forward, you will get better. The big dream. Traveling abroad. As my English skills improved, a new dream started growing inside me. I wanted to travel to an English-speaking country. I had always seen pictures of London, New York, and Sydney, and I wondered what it would feel like to walk those streets, order food at a cafe, or make friends in a completely new place. But there was a problem. Traveling was expensive, and I didn't know where to start. Step 8. Learning through real conversations. Instead of feeling discouraged, I focused on what I could do. I started making friends from different countries through online communities. Every day I would chat with them in English. We talked about culture, daily life, and even joked around. One of my new friends, Jake from Canada, once told me, "Your English is really good now. Why don't you try applying for a scholarship?" A scholarship? I had never thought about that. Step 9. Applying for a scholarship. I searched for international programs and found one that offered students a chance to study abroad. The application required an English essay. I had never written something so important before, but I remembered my training. Practice, don't be afraid, and enjoy the journey. I wrote about my English learning journey, my struggles, and how I had worked hard to improve. I asked my language exchange friends to check my grammar. After many edits, I finally submitted it. The life-changing moment, weeks passed, and I almost forgot about the application. Then one day an email arrived. "Congratulations, you have been selected for the scholarship program." I couldn't believe it. My dream was coming true. A few months later, I was sitting on a plane, looking out the window as the clouds passed below me. I was heading to a new country where I would use my English in real life. The journey never ends. When I arrived, I faced new challenges, understanding different accents, learning new expressions, and adjusting to a different culture. But I wasn't afraid anymore. I knew that every mistake was just another step forward. Looking back, I realized something important. Learning English wasn't just about words and grammar. It was about opening doors to new opportunities, friendships, and experiences. And as I walked through the busy streets of my new city, I smiled to myself because my journey wasn't ending. It was only just beginning. The first days in a new country. Arriving in a new country was both exciting and overwhelming. Everything was different. The streets, the people, even the way they spoke English. I had learned English from books and online conversations, but now I had to use it in real life, every single day. The first challenge came at the airport. The officer at immigration asked, "What's the purpose of your visit?" For a moment, my mind went blank. The English words I had practiced so many times disappeared. But then I took a deep breath and replied, I'm here for a scholarship program. He nodded, stamped my passport, and said, Welcome. Enjoy your stay. I smiled. I had done it. I had spoken English in a real situation. Step 10. Adapting to the accent and culture. Once I settled into my dormitory, I faced a new challenge. Understanding native speakers. They spoke fast, used slang, and sometimes their accents were different from what I had heard in movies. One day I went to a cafe and ordered a coffee. The barista asked, For here or to go? I didn't understand at first. I had learned dine in or take away, but not this phrase. I hesitated, then quickly said, To go, please. Every day I learned something new. New words, new phrases, and new ways to communicate. Making friends and growing confidence. At the university, I met students from different countries. At first, I was shy. What if I said something wrong? But then I remembered mistakes are part of learning. So I started conversations. I asked people about their culture, their food, and their experiences. Soon I had friends from all over the world. One of my classmates, Emma, once told me, Your English is really good. How did you learn? I laughed and said, A lot of practice, mistakes, and never giving up. Step 11. Thinking and dreaming in English. One night, something amazing happened. I had a dream, and for the first time, it was in English. That's when I realized I was no longer just learning English, I was living it. The future, a new goal. Months passed and my English became more natural. I gave presentations in class, wrote essays, and even helped other international students with their English. One day I thought to myself, if I could improve this much, maybe I can help others too. A new dream was born. I wanted to teach English, inspire others, and show them that learning a language is not just about words. It's about confidence, opportunities, and growth. And so my journey continues. But now I am not just a student. I am becoming a teacher. A new chapter, living the dream. Arriving in a new country was like stepping into a different world. Everything felt exciting. The streets, the people, even the way they spoke. I had dreamed of this moment for so long, but now that I was here, a new challenge began. Step 10. Adapting to a new environment. At first, even though I had practiced English for years, real-life conversations were harder than I expected. People spoke fast, used slang, and sometimes had different accents. I had to ask them to repeat things, and I felt embarrassed when I didn't understand. One day at a cafe, I tried ordering coffee, but the barista asked me something I didn't recognize. For here or to go? I froze for a second. I had never learned this phrase before. But instead of panicking, I smiled and asked, Could you say that again? She repeated it slowly, and I realized she was asking if I wanted to drink my coffee there or take it with me. To go, please, I answered, feeling proud of myself. I learned an important lesson that day. It's okay not to know everything. What matters is having the courage to ask and learn. Step 11. Making friends in a new country. Making friends was another challenge. At first, I felt shy. What if my English wasn't good enough? What if people didn't understand me? But then I remembered how I had improved before, by practicing and not being afraid. So I started joining local events and student groups. One day, I introduced myself to a group of students, and we started talking. I made mistakes, but no one cared. They were curious about my culture, and I was curious about theirs. Soon, I had a new circle of friends. Step 12. Thinking and dreaming in English. After a few months, something incredible happened. I caught myself thinking in English without translating. Even my dreams were sometimes in English. That was the moment I realized I had truly become fluent. The future. What's next? My journey of learning English had taken me farther than I ever imagined. It started as a simple goal, but it had given me confidence, friendships, and a world of new opportunities. One evening, as I walked through the city, I thought about my next goal. Maybe I could help others learn English just like I had. Maybe I could write a book about my experience, or maybe my next adventure was waiting just around the corner. I didn't have all the answers, but one thing was certain: the journey never ends, and I am excited for whatever comes next. This is where my story continues. But maybe it's also the beginning of your story.